I don't really know why that is. Right. So, after having successfully made a new slide, we are looking at the sea urchin embryos after 17 hours. And I'm seeing a whole bunch of them. They're still inside those fertilization membranes. So they haven't broken out yet. But let's see if we can identify the stages. I'm going to go ahead to a slightly higher power, and let's have a look. All right, I'm basically going to pan across my field of view. All right, so we've got one there. And the twitching, I don't think, is from the cell's own or the embryo's own ability to move. I think that's Brownian motion, the motion of basically random collisions with water molecules. But if you focus up and down, you can see it's definitely got a pretty thick rim. And there I'm kind of focused above it. And as I move down, I can see where it's starting to look hollow. And then as I move down through it there, I think I'm focused on the far side of it. And there in the middle, I can see that's a hollow ball. So by the power vested in me by the state of Arkansas, I would personally call that a blastula. Remember, that's the stage of a hollow ball of cells. There might be a few cells that are wandering inside, which, if true, would make this actually an early gastrula. For some of these, you just kind of have to make a judgment call, but I'm going to say blastula, and I must be right because I've got a PhD. But even if I'm not, as long as we're consistent, we should get okay results as long as we can consistently identify these stages. So there's okay. There's two of them. Okay, and this may be, all right, this one this one may be a little bit more early gastrula. As I focus up and down, you can see it's hollow inside, but I'm definitely seeing kind of grainy little cells. Not grainy really, but I'm seeing little blobs inside that hollow. And actually, okay, it's in an angle I'm not used to seeing, but I think I might be seeing the dent right there. So I'm going to call this thing early gastrula. And that's another one where I'm definitely seeing cells wandering on the inside of that hollow. Those are mesenchyme cells. These are the cells that are going to become the mesoderm. So I'm going to say that's early gastrula. And if we move over here and look at this one, at this angle, yeah, this is early gastrula. You can definitely see the dent. It's down there kind of at about your 7 o'clock. If you focus up and down, I can see little cells inside the blastocele, the empty space inside the blastula. But I'm also starting to see that dent pushing in at, again, it's roughly your 5 o'clock. So I'm going to call that early gastrula. And if I go over here, I can definitely, that's very definitely a gastrula. That's past early. You're kind of looking down on it, but you can see that dent from above, I think. Yeah, the blastopore, which is where that dent takes place and those cells start wandering in, I think is right at the top of the embryo. And we're looking right down it. We are looking straight down the anus of a larval sea urchin. UCA is definitely the center of learning. Amazing things that we do. And as you focus through it, you can see there's kind of a scattering of blobby cells surrounding that. So that's definitely a, yeah, that's definitely right there. I'd call it maybe middle gastrula, but it's definitely gone farther than some of these others. Yeah, Philip, sorry, you got kicked out for some kind of technical reason when I started recording, and I don't know why. It wasn't me. So that's about a mid gastrula. There's another mid gastrula where I think we're looking straight down the straight down the anus of a larval sea urchin, because at UCA we're all about that sort of thing. Okay, good morning. We're recording, and I'm taking footage of fertilized sea urchin eggs after 17 hours. And what most of them seem to be is late blastula, early gastrula, and mid gastrula. They're basically hollow balls of cells. But with some of them, you can clearly see that dent that's forming. That's the blastopore. And if you focus up and down, you can see that inside that hollow ball, you've got some scattered cells. That's mesenchyme. That's what's going to go on to become the mesoderm, the third basic embryonic layer. So we've counted those. This one right here, I think, is, I'm going to call that early gastrula because I'm seeing cells inside, but I'm not seeing a dent yet. So we can call that early gastrula. All right, I don't think we counted this one. And okay, that's an early to mid gastrula from the side. And right there at about your 5 o'clock, you can see that dent. I can see the dent pretty clearly, that protrusion into that hollow interior, and kind of surrounding it, you can see some small blobby things. That's the mesenchyme. So I'm going to say that's, okay, if the inside's hollow, we can say late blastula. If it's hollow but there's blobby cells inside it, we'll call it early gastrula. And if we see a clear dent, we'll call it mid gastrula. I can't really look that up to make sure that's absolutely the way the pros would do it, but it will do for what we're doing here, as long as we're consistent about that. So I'm going to call that a mid gastrula. I'm going to call that one, I can't clearly see a dent, so I'm going to call that early, although I think we might be looking down on it, but I think that's yeah, let's call that one a mid. All right, I'm going to call that one late blastula, because the cavity there looks fairly open to me, at least to my aging eyes. but this one's definitely mid-gastrula. You can clearly see that tube forming. And again, I think we're looking straight up it or straight down it right there. And yeah, that one you can see the cavity, but I think I'm going to call that blastula. That's actually one that looks like it didn't get fertilized. That just looks like a unfertilized egg that's still hanging around. Okay, I tell you what, I'm going to stop talking and I'm just going to zoom around and find as many of these as I can. And on your own, you can try to score these. That handout that I emailed to you just now actually has some pictures you can use for comparison. And I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let you try to figure out what these stages are. So I'm just going to find them and you can try to gauge it now that I've done a few. Okay, I'm breaking silence. I think those are two unfertilized. And let's just go ahead and leave out unfertilized eggs from our calculations, just because they don't really tell you anything about how developing is passing when they never got fertilized at all. Why they are stuck together, I don't know. I assume it's just chance. So you can decide about that one. I'll just focus up and down on that. And here's a nice bunch. So we've got that one. Focus up and down. And that one. And that one. And that one. And that one. Yeah, that one you just might be able to see a little dent forming at about your 2 o'clock. I don't think it's gotten very far. And there's one. And there's one. And there's one. And okay, I don't think I've counted these. And there's two. And there's one. And there's one. And there's one. And that's one. And that's one. You can just barely see very faint little radiating lines around this thing, almost like a kid's drawing of the sun. That's the remains of that jelly coat. There's a coat of jelly that surrounds each egg, and it's almost invisible, but you can see it. I'm not sure if those are sperm or bacteria that are still hanging out, but you can see little twitchy things that can't quite break through, but that seemingly are trying. So those may be sperm that don't know when to quit. There could also be some bacterial growth in here. That can be a problem. So there's that one. And that one. And that one. Interesting shape to that one. And that one. Yeah, I'm definitely seeing a dent there from the side at about the 10 o'clock. So that one's a little dented. And let's see. All right, there's one. And 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 there's one. All right, moving back to where I was. All right, there's one. There's one. There's one. It's looking a little odd. There's one. There's one. There's one. There's one. Can't really see what's going on with that one. Okay, that's an unfertilized egg. And another unfertilized egg. Yeah. And there's one. And there's one. And there's one. And there's one. That one you can really see the mesenchyme cells inside. That one's very clear. And there's one. 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 And I'm probably putting you folks to sleep, but sometimes you've got to suffer for your science. This is not the most fascinating thing I've ever recorded, I'm sure, but you need to, this is make sure you're gathering quantitative data here. So there's one. And that one is really nice and clear. Yeah, that's one with the dent on the side from our field of view. So here you can really clearly see the gas relation going on. That little finger-like extension inwards might actually be a tiny bit clearer if I actually turn down the contrast, and that might actually make it a little easier to see. So there's that one. And there's that one. And 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 as if that weren't enough, there's that one. And there's that one. That one looks odd. And there's that one. And these two. And there's that one. And that one. Huh. That one's rolling. Possibly that one may have actually managed to hatch. They'll spin like that when they're beating their cilia. So there's that one. And those two. And a couple of unfertilized. And that one. 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 That one looks a little. That one may be abnormal or maybe dead. Yeah, that one looks weird. That one doesn't look right. And that one, okay, that one's got a nice dent. So that would be a pretty early gastrula seen from the side. That one, I think I can see the dent too. Yeah. There's that one. And that one. And hang on. And that one. And that one. And that one. And how about this one? And that one. And that one. And there's that one. And that one, believe it or not, we're almost done. There's that. And there's that one. And that one. And that one. And there's two. And I'm starting to feel like the Count on Sesame Street. 57 sea urchin blastulas. Ah, 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 ah. Okay, that's not the real number, but okay, there's that one. And that one. And ladies and gentlemen, that would seem to be all we've got on the slide. So you've got your samples of embryos from the the control group, which don't have any treatments. They're in seawater made with distilled water that should be free from nickel. We'll stop recording, and when we come back, we'll look at the experimental group. And I think for that one, I'm just going to shut up, play some music, but I'll do what I did before. I'll move the slide around, and hopefully you've got enough experience now that you can figure out what stages you're looking at. So I'll stop recording now, and we'll pick this up in the next vid.